evolution, 1991. The scenic coastal town, Mangalore, was witness to a new era in the field of medical education. The Islamic Academy of Education, a non-profit trust committed to the upliftment of minorities, was established by the entrepreneur Mr. Yenapoya Abdullah Kunhi. Perceiving the potential of Mangalore suburbs to be a prospective educational hub, he began the establishment of colleges with the principle of excellence in professional education, which flourished into a full-fledged university, providing training in medicine and all its parallel fields. Currently, Yenapoya is a dynasty of educational institutes like Yenapoya Dental College, Medical College, Nursing College, Physiotherapy College, Yenapoya Pharmacy College and Research Center, and Yenapoya Institute of Arts, Science, Commerce and Management were further established to offer education and research in the areas of pharmacy, management and general education. Yenapoya offers a plethora of courses with 89 ongoing and 20 approved and proposed programs. The PhD program has been introduced in 39 departments and research center as per the UGC regulations. The medical college also offers undergraduate courses in technical programs like medical lab technology, medical imaging technology, perfusion, renal dialysis, anesthesia and OT, cardiovascular technology, respiratory care, optometry, as well as hospital administration and others, to name a few. Students are presented with ample opportunities to find their niche. Spread over a sprawling 36.76-acre campus at Teralakatte, Mangaluru, all the constituent colleges are provided with excellent infrastructure to impart knowledge. Spacious examination halls and 19 lecture halls have the electronic support system to engage students eloquently. Practical training is complemented with well-equipped laboratories. The anatomy dissection hall introduces students to the intricacies of the human body before undertaking clinical examinations and procedures. Well-equipped pathology and biochemistry lab foster the importance of diagnostic procedures to implement treatment. The central laboratory is a key unit, conducts number of diagnostic and confirmatory tests. Many significant in vivo researches are conducted at the Animal House of Pharmacology Lab. At the Nursing Nutrition Lab, aspiring students learn to put together a nutritious meal for the benefit of their wards. Pre-clinical exercise at the Physiotherapy Lab enhances clinical understanding. Dental simulators prepare students to handle clinical scenarios. The Simulation Center at Yenapoya is the largest in India and trains students in a virtual environment to mitigate errors and maintain safety. This includes a number of unique state-of-the-art facilities like Anatomatch table simulating the human body, a number of high-fidelity simulators like infant, adolescent, adult, and maternal fetal simulators are housed here. Students seeking to further their knowledge can do so with CPR mannequins, endoscopy, laparoscopy trainers, cath lab and ultrasound trainers. The Simulation Center is a milestone aimed at perfecting the skills of trainees and delivering excellent treatment. Comprising of well-stocked central library, housing thousands of books, journals and publications, regularly updated via digital media, with 7 museums documenting various areas of health sciences. The Dental Museum being the most advanced, affirms Yenapoya is not just a university for the students, but a knowledge center. Students at Yenapoya acquire valuable experience during hands-on training at the medical college and hospital, with above 2,000 outpatients per day at OPD. A fully functional ICU, general wards, blood bank, digital MRD, CSSD, oncology center and kidney transplant unit. Cath labs and OT have been established. The operation theatre is equipped with 14 state-of-the-art modular OTs with stainless steel makeup and HEPA filters and antibacterial and antifungal walls. The operating rooms have state-of-the-art equipment, adequately staffed with experienced professionals. They are customized for smooth delivering of operating procedures, for super specialty and other routine emergency surgical services. The theatres meet quality standards envisaged under NABH norms. The state-of-the-art robotic surgery unit at Da Vinci Surgical Systems is a first in coastal Karnataka. Patients from all strata of society are benefiting from this advanced minimally invasive surgical system at a highly subsidized cost. Considering the demand for surgeons skilled in robotic-assisted surgeries, the university, in collaboration with Intuitive Surgical USA Inc., a global technology leader in minimally invasive robotic-assisted surgeries, has established an advanced surgical skills and robotic surgery training center, which is a second of its kind in the country. The Dental CAD Center is one of a kind in the city. The Radiology Department is one of our primary diagnostic centers equipped with ultra-modern units for diagnosis. The facilities are echocardiography, X-ray, CT scan, ultrasound and digital radiography. The 3 Tesla MRI has been installed for making use of highly advanced and reliable imaging technology for early diagnosis and treatment. There are only a handful of teaching hospitals in the country with this facility. The Yenapoya Research Center is a unique venture equipped with state-of-the-art mass spectrometric instruments and dedicated team aimed at groundbreaking research in newer fields of study, including biostatistics and information, molecular biology, toxicology, cell culture, stem cells and regenerative medicine, nanosciences and nanomedicine, microbiology and mycology, infectious disease and bioanalytics, also patenting the findings. The YU IOB Center for Systematic Biology and Molecular Medicine promotes further research in the branch of molecular biology. Center for Biomaterials and Medical Devices focuses on developing medical devices, biomaterials and non-invasive methods for diagnosis and treatment of diseases. The Center for Health Professional Education conducts regular feedback sessions and training workshops to all faculty. The Center for Substance Abuse and Prevention is an active entity that performs extensive research and counseling on tobacco, alcohol and drug cessation. Center for Ethics is proactive in imparting bioethics and medical ethics to the professionals and students in all. The Yenapoya Center for Craniofacial Anomalies is an initiative backed by a team of doctors dedicated to the study of cleft and craniofacial anomalies. At Yenapoya, social responsibilities are taken seriously. Many community outreach programs and healthcare delivery programs have been chartered for this purpose. The university has a dedicated rural healthcare and development center which caters to 27 sub-centers. The Dental College has 9 peripheral sub-centers in rural and outreach areas, and Physiotherapy College has 1 peripheral sub-center. With 8 hostels for both men and women, the campus is well equipped to provide students with a memorable experience. Students focus on overall development with the use of sporting facilities around the campus, which includes well-maintained sports ground, indoor stadium and multi-gym, helping students to maintain their physical well-being. The university boasts of an active NSS unit with over 500 volunteers. Renaissance, the students' annual cultural extravaganza, is a platform for showcasing their talents in curricular and extracurricular activities. Along with being an educational center, Yenapoya is nature-friendly green campus. The Center for Environmental Sciences is dedicated to the sustainable development of the university campus. 1/3 of the campus is glowing with green. The primary attraction being Medicinal Garden, the campus boasts of initiatives like rainwater harvesting, solar panels, drinking water and sewage water treatment plants. A central kitchen supplies sumptuous, hygienic food catering to all necessities. Yenapoya campus houses a prayer hall, cafeteria, mini theatre, laundry and daycare facility. Education is the food for the mind, body and soul. At Yanapoya, we deliver the best of everything to help our young minds enlighten themselves, making a difference to the world as we know it today. Discover your world at Yanapoya, harnessing the power of knowledge.
A very good morning to you all. It fills me with nostalgic feelings to welcome you all for today's CME. And the highlights of today's I'll be announcing. The speaker for today, Dr. Somsekhar Pujar, Associate Professor from JNMC Belgaum. And he's talking about assessment in forensic medicine toxicology. And it will be moderated ably by Dr. Pratik Tarwadi, who is the Professor and Head of Namo Medical Education Research Trust Institute, Silvassa. And Pratik has also been very much encouraging to others in the field of forensic. He has instituted prizes for undergraduate as well as postgraduate level for the toppers in government as well as private college. So that is Pratik, and he has always been influential in the way students take up forensic. And today about the Carnatic Medical Legal Society, although many of us are quite in sync with what is Carnatic Medical Legal Society, but we also should know that Kamal's has a huge history. And when there is a huge history, if we do not capitulate it in a nutshell, many who have just joined now may miss it. So for that, I would like to call upon Dr. Venkat Raghavan, who is the Professor and Unit Head, Department of Forensic Medicine Toxicology, Bowring Lady Curzon Medical College, Research Institute, Bangalore, to give a brief introduction to the Carnatic Medical Legal Society. And now over to the moderator, Dr. Kishore. Over to Dr. Venkat Raghavan. Would you like to start on?
Yes, ma'am. Surely. Good morning, everyone. So I welcome all of you to this wonderful webinar session by the dynamic team of Yanapoya Medical College. First, I want to congratulate Dr. Kishore, the President, Veena Vaswani Madam, and Dr. Venkatakrishna Shanai for organizing an excellent webinar that too during this tough period of Corona. So all of you know our Karnataka Medical Legal Society, which is a wonderful organization, started in Bangalore Medical College. It has done wonderful work in the field of forensic medicine. So it is the only organization which is organizing the conferences very regularly each year. Not only the conferences, the journal, it is coming very much regularly and record for the students. So it is doing an amazing work. So I don't want to take much time. So I'm very much honored to be associated with this prestigious association. So I'm privileged that we organized the 25th conference in Bangalore Medical College, and in many conferences which were organized by other medical colleges in Bangalore, Ramaya, KIMS, Vaidehi, all the conferences, I was very much actively involved. So a lot of seniors have done an excellent work for this upliftment of this prestigious organization. Not a single person, many people, they have done an excellent work. So I wish everyone all the best, and I wish that our association should continue like this. So once again, I congratulate the organizers and the participants and all the excellent speakers who have delivered excellent lectures in this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now over to Dr. Pratik Tarwadi. Pratik.
Very good morning, everybody. Thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session. I would welcome Dr. Somsekhar Pujar sir who is associate professor from Belgavi, who has done his undergraduate from Dean Medical College and MD from Bangalore Medical College, with 8 international and 11 national publications. Presently Secretary in Department of Medical Education and MCI faculty for Nodal Center, JNMC. I request Somsekhar sir to kindly start the session, sir. Meanwhile, I request everybody to kindly put off their camera so that more people also can freely enter.
Good morning to you all. Greetings from KLS Jain Medical College, Belagavi. Also, I welcome you all to the state webinar series organized by Karnataka Medical Legal Society and Department of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology, Ennoppa University, in CBME curriculum implementation in forensic medicine. So today I'll be sharing information about assessment in forensic medicine and toxicology. Ma'am, I'm not visible. Sorry.
So your slides are visible, sir. Your slides are visible. You are also visible, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Today I'll be sharing information on assessment in forensic medicine and toxicology. Generally, once we say assessment, it comes to our mind that it is a tool that is utilized to know the best about the student or what we have best in ourselves, whether it is studies, career, or even the course. So what is at this juncture, why there is so much emphasis on assessment in forensic medicine or in particular to the CBME curriculum? If you ask or if you just analyze and what makes a CBME so different from the conventional or the yesteryears, the subject-based curriculum, is that this competency-based medicine is outcome-based medicine, and the crucial aspect of it is assessment. It is the heart of the CBME curriculum, where the pattern of assessment as well as when it has to be assessed, how it has to be assessed, and how serially or how regularly it has to be assessed. So today we are talking about this assessment and importance of this assessment. Objectives of this session would be, at the end of the session, all the participants will be able to describe the concepts of formative and summative assessment, choose appropriate methods of conducting formative assessment, as well as enumerate the MCI guidelines regarding summative assessment. Assessment can be defined as any systematic method of obtaining information from tests and other sources about the characteristic of people, objects, and program. So this is actually a psychological definition. So it holds good for all the curriculums. Okay. So very commonly we use interchangeable terms like evaluation and assessment. So what is difference between this assessment and evaluation is, evaluation is usually the global phenomena. It is macro phenomena. In evaluation, we are going to assess or look into the process, how it is running, where it can be modified. So to say here, evaluation is done for the curriculum. So we should aptly use the terminology once we are assessing the students as assessment only. Usually we call it as evaluation of the students. It is not the correct terminology, where the assessment is very much limited to the content area or how much a student has acquired or what is the gap in the learning. So it has to be limited to those things. So in general, I wanted to explain about only assessment and evaluation. Coming down to the what is purpose of assessment. Okay, assessment is used for the selection of the students, or even say whether the student has passed or failed, or in case of classification, like we consider it to be slow learners or advanced learners, or wherever there is a gap, we need to have again emphasize on or take a remedial classes for that classification. Evaluation, assessment is part of the process evaluation also, so it helps in re-looking back into the curriculum aspect and make the necessary modifications. Similarly, it is also useful in case of counseling, research, or maintenance of the standards or internal quality assessment. So it is very well said that learning can happen only if the students are told that they are going to be assessed. So we can say that assessment drives the learning. I'd like to talk about this golden triangle, which is very much important at this moment. Okay, all these days in this webinar series, we have learned to know, learn to write objectives as well as teaching learning methodologies, which has to be implemented. And today I'll be talking about assessment. All these three are like tripod and they are interconnected and they are influential each other. Like for example, the objectives what we have derived have to be measurable. How can it be measured? It is through the assessment. And for those objectives, exact or apt teaching learning methodologies have to be adopted. So what is not taught should not be assessed, or even in the sense that what objectives we have not put forth, okay, should not be assessed. So we'll have to see that all these three are aligned and linked. So to say in simpler terms, assessment is done to either prove or improve. To prove is like end of the course assessment, whether we are going to say it is pass or fail, or whether the students can progress to next level of course or curriculum, or even for the selections. But in case of the improvement, this has to go on during the course itself. I can tell, we can tell that it can be said as within the classroom. So it is ongoing assessment for the improvement in the learning. Types of assessments, commonly used types of assessment are formative assessment, summative assessment, and criterion and norm-based assessment, high and low stake assessment. So I'll be talking about only formative and summative assessment because as such to say, okay, assessment is a huge topic and to cover up in within 45 minutes to 1 hour, okay, yeah, I need to just highlight few things and only concentrate on the formative and summative assessments. Before going to assessment proper, we need to understand what is competency-based medical education or curriculum. Okay. So in case of competency, once we say competency, it is acquisition of the knowledge, skills, and attitude, and it can't be compartmentalized. Okay, learning knowledge at some time and learning skills at some other time, and this one. So this has to go on simultaneously, and it has to be in incremental manner. That is why competency can be told as it is not all or none phenomena. So it is a progressive phenomena. Slowly, like milestones, one by one, the competency will be acquired. These competencies will again lead to the accomplishment of the roles, what IMG regulations have concluded. So the progression mainly depends upon the feedback. Okay, this feedback is very much important in learning and relearning and identifying the gaps. So bridging those gaps, as well as the feedback has to be immediate, which is more important at this point. And this feedback, it is not only just immediate, there has to be a proper method of giving feedbacks. So it has to be more authentic and it has to be more accountable for learning. So based on this, we have MCI has suggested many assessment methodologies, and among them, the formative assessment has been given more importance. So if it can be put in a single word, what is a major change in the CBME is that it is assessment. So how do you assess, what we assess, and what time we assess is nothing but implementations of the formative assessment throughout the curriculum. So it is shown here, it is competency based is integrated assessment and it is mostly formative type. We'll try to understand this diagram, and it is very well illustrated here. In the funnel, we can see there is something written as feedback, feed up, and feed forward. So we know what is feedback. Feedback is given immediately after a student has completed some action, or he has demonstrated something, or he has given the answer, or he has responded for any of the questions put forward. Okay, but what is feed up? So now in CBME curriculum as well as in formative assessment, the feedback is given concurrently when the student is learning. For example, if a student is demonstrating or or else if he is talking with the patients, okay. So if he is not greeting patient or taking the patient into confident, immediately the interventions can be done and the student can be given feedback. We need not have to wait till the end of the session. So this is called as feed up. Okay, this has to happen again regularly. And what is feed forward? If a student has learned some competency or he has reached some portion, some part of the competency, we'll have to give an environment of learning and expose the student for the realistic situations. So those situations can be explained. If that situation arises, what is your action? Okay, or how you will react to those situations. This is called as feed forward. And if you can see the volume of the circles, formative has a major sphere. It means to say that formative assessment makes the major portion of assessment what occurs in this CBME with the forensic medicine, which is now it is in the second phase as well as third phase. Okay, so throughout this second and third phase, including in the classrooms, this formative assessment will have to be continued. So this formative assessment can be in the form of self-assessment, or it can be in the form of reflections, or it can be in the form of workplace-based assessment. As well, summative assessments will be at some intervals, at a segmental level. These two cycles, okay, churn the learning and push it forward in a unified manner. Key features of formative assessment that it needs more of direct observation and plays a major role, especially in case of learning the skills. And once we say skills, there are intellectual skills, there are technical skills, there are psychomotor skills, and also communication skills. So everywhere this has to happen. And one more thing I would like to emphasize here, whenever we say assessment, okay, what it should not be only at the end of the learning. It has to occur along with the learning. That this is what is called as formative assessment. We'll see what is formative. Formative is a feedback type of assessment, and it is very focused. So very focused means like it should occur in a small group sessions, and it can also occur in large group sessions. And every learning phase or every step of the learning is has to be given a feedback. Student have to be continuously be under the supervision of the teacher. And here the teacher can be a facilitator or instructor, or even by sharing the resource material, and it can even occur on the online sessions. And it should be regular on day-to-day basis. It has to be continuous to make the learning happen more interactive. So if it doesn't occur within the classrooms, at least at the end of the topics, there has to be some sort of formative assessment, and feedback has to be very much focused. It should not be generalized. That is why usually in case of large group discussions or large group teachings, okay, whatever the feedback is given is not considered to be a formative type. So every student needs a specific feedback where they are lacking in learning sessions. Okay. One more important aspect of formative assessment, it is very low on validity. So this cannot be considered for pass or fail. And usually, again, a formative assessment should not be graded or marks should be given. But MCI suggested that at least little amount of grading or weightage should be given to this formative assessment, so that a learning occurs better, because unless there is assessment, there won't be better learning. This formative assessment can also be called as assessment for learning. We are not assessing how much the student has learned, but we are going about what they are learning and how they are learning.
Sir, sorry, sir. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
please adjust your mic, sir? Can you just adjust your mic, sir?
Okay.
It's
Audible,
slightly different.
sir, audible now?
Sir, you're audible, but there was a little voice disturbance also coming in. So just
Oh.
adjust the mic. Sir.
Yes, yes. No, sir. No. Fine.
There is some air movement extra, sir.
Sir. Okay, sir. I'll just keep it away from this one. No, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, sir. Fine. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Then summative assessments. Okay. Summative assessment is usually at the end of the course or even end of the postings. Okay. Many times we get confused saying that end of the unit test, even at the end of the 1 month clinical postings, the tests which are conducted were considered to be formative type, but it is summative type of examinations. The internal examinations at the end of the term examinations, like theory examinations, practical examinations, this is also called as summative type of examinations. Midterm, end of the year examinations or end of the phase examinations. These summative examinations are major decisions for the educational progression of the students. Whether the student has passed or failed or can progress to the next level of the curriculum or the program. So these are main decision making. So these summative exams are called as high stake exams also. So this is also called, can be told as assessment of learning, how much the student has learned. There are various methods. I'll go very brief on these methods. These are the methods which can be implemented in formative assessment as well as summative assessment. We'll see what are these. These are a written type of assessment. In the written type, it is constructed response or selected response. Performance kind of test. Clinical observation method and miscellaneous type of oral and viva voce types. So we need to also understand this Miller's pyramid. So this will give an insight into what should be assessed and why it should be assessed. So if we want to assess the knowledge level or cognitive domain, so it has to be fundamentally the lower portions of the pyramid. Similarly, if it has to be in the performance level, like demonstration of some of the skills, which can be told as shows how level, a performance test can be adopted there. And does means a student is doing independently. In case of shows how, student is performing under supervision where he is learning basic skills. But in case of does, the student is doing independently and he is also exposed to the natural environment or the natural situations or real life situations where it will bring out or assess the natural behavior of the students, the readiness of the students. So this will give us insight on what to assess. So the progression of assessment also should be from the lower level to higher level. This is well illustrated by the Bloom's taxonomy. If it is cognitive level or knowledge level, so it has to escalate or step ladder manner from the lower level to the higher level. From the knowledge to comprehension of the knowledge, then application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Usually analysis and synthesis will give about the critical evaluation, critical thinking or problem solving methods. So this can be assessed at higher levels. Okay. Similarly, in case of psychomotor, the progression should be from imitations, like learning from the instructor, then doing by themselves and having a control or subconsciously doing the psychomotor acts. Similarly, in the affective domain, from receiving or from observing and responding to the patients or communicating with the patients, communicating with the colleagues or communicating with the subordinates, all these things will come under affective domain as part of communication and attitude. So everything has to progress in from a lower down to the upper level. At the end, what are we going to assess? Okay. In CBME, we are going to assess the roles which a student or the competencies, the larger competencies a student should have acquired. So the competencies defined by MCI are student should be a clinician at the end, okay, clinician of a first contact who has a reasonable knowledge, skill, attitude, respects the values, and will communicate in a perspective or in a socio-economic manner. And he should be a leader and member of healthcare system or healthcare delivery chain. And he should be a communicator as well as lifelong learner. Even if he goes out of the university, he is continuously gathering the information to be at par with the global knowledge. And he is professional and ethical, and he is not going to practice unethical and support unethical people, as well as okay, he gives the inputs to the development of the profession. All these competencies are within a single student. That is why, while we are assessing these competencies, this should not be split into different areas or segmental. Altogether, we are going to assess in incremental manners. Though competencies are broken into different domains for learning, but for assessment, they cannot be separated, which are overlapping, as well as these are clubbed into a single role. Okay. And also, no single assessment tool is sufficient to get a composite picture of a student's attainment. So it means to say that if a student is good at knowledge, it doesn't mean the student is good at the skills. So every time we should look into this matter, that assessment has to occur across all the domains, and it has to occur simultaneously. So coming to return type are aptly, or it is good in the return type. The examples for the return type of methods of examinations are writing short question answers, long essay types, or fill in the blanks, or true or false, or even MCQs, extended type of MCQs. Okay, this is a good domain for wherever we are looking into knowledge level. In the knowledge level, again, it is knows and knows how level. So this portion or this level of the Miller's pyramid, that is knows and knows how level, can be assessed or aptly assessed with a written form of examinations. And regarding performance test, usually this performance test explicitly warrant to determine the required behavior of the students. So it assesses how skillful a student is at a given point of, at a given situations. So it is assessed by standardized patients or rating, charting, as well as auscultations, where we'll be assessing data gathering or communication skills, interpersonal skills, procedural skills, critical skills, problem solving abilities, decision making, and professionalism and ethics. Usually this has to be adopted for practical demonstrations. Also, it can be to some extent to be adopted if there is history taking and provisional diagnosis are discussed and plan of action is discussed. So performance tests are aptly adopted for shows how level. Whenever we say shows how level, students are performing under supervision. So it can be a simulated environment, it can be a lab, or it can be a standardized patient. For clinical observations or assessments, usually it is done on the clinical side, and in forensic medicine, we can adapt to many situations where in case of casualty postings or initial assessment of poisoning cases or drunkenness, examinations after drunkenness, where history taking, as well as in case of sexual assault cases, history taking and provisional diagnosis are framed. Okay, such clinical observations assessment can be adopted. Here, we look into saying that, okay, a student is progressing from a reporter to the interpreter. Reporter is gathering of the information and just reporting to the seniors. Then he progresses to interpreter and he becomes a manager and he becomes an educator at the end. This is called as a rhyme progression. So formative assessments are very much important for this kind of learning and assessment. Though it is low in validity, but it can bridge the gaps which are there in the learning process. Examples for this is mini clinical examinations, 1 minute preceptors, snaps, which are important for intellectual skill and clinical reasoning. As well, standardized patients are again utilized here. Videotapes. Videotapes are mainly important in case of acquiring affective domain or attitude and communication, where reflective ratings are can be given as one type of formative assessments, as well as patient satisfactory surveys with a chart or checklist. Peer assessment is again very important. Usually, this is should be adopted in the clinical postings in the final phase or even in case of internships. So, especially the communications and examinations and problem solving critical assessment or even in case of management of the diseases can be assessed by this kind of assessment. I'll just go through this example of 1 minute preceptor, which is adopted in case of history taking, and it is also helpful in making a discussions and giving a positive feedback to the student. Usually the first step of this 1 minute preceptor is instructor will ask for the commitment from the student. What is this commitment? A student would have taken the history, has examined the patient, and he has made some conclusion about the history taking. This is nothing but the provisional diagnosis. If a student has made some provisional diagnosis, then we will have to probe or inquire into the provisional diagnosis. Why you have made this diagnosis? What are the other probable diagnoses that can be discussed? If I give the examples like this one, if a patient has come in unconscious state to the casualty, what could be the differential diagnosis on the basis of the signs and symptoms available? Or very aptly, it can be given. One more example is like poisoning cases. Okay, poisoning cases, pinpoint people's what are the differential diagnosis, and what other signs, or even in case of a differential diagnosis for the froth at the nostril and the mouth. All these things have to be probed and bring out the clear diagnosis from the students. So at the end, actually it is called as 1 minute preceptor, but the teachers is going to give feedback for only 1 minute. Usually for the 6 minutes, the presentation is going, and for 3 minutes, there will be questioning session. And in 1 minute, the instructor or the teacher will give the feedback. So the teacher will give a conclusive positive feedback that has to be a basic principle or a concept, which has to be like a take-home message. Similarly, the SNAPS model is adopted. There are many models which can be adopted. So I'm not explaining this. This can be these are available in website, as well as MCI has suggested all these models. And Kalamazoo skills. Kalamazoo skills is also called as it is adopted for communication skills. This is a good tool for learning as well as assessment methods. So with the observation methods of this workplace-based assessment, the performance of a student can be assessed. About oral examinations, okay. Usually oral examinations should be adopted to assess the ability to express the ideas, think on one's feet type of questions or critical reasoning, problem solving methods, and it should not be used to test the knowledge alone. Many times we are making this mistake in the Viva. We're asking for the definitions, we're asking for the classifications, or we're asking for the procedure. But this has to be limited for problem solving and critical thinking methods. These are many assessment tools which can be adopted. This was given by Dr. Tejinder. He is one of the pioneer in assessment. Okay. You can have a screenshot, or I'll be sharing with this. This will explain which methods can be adopted. But I have a table for this where we'll see what can be adopted. Like in case of knows how level or knowledge level, knows and knows how level, we should use MCQs, multiple choice MCQs again, true or false, extended type of matching or extended type of MCQs, short answer questions, long answer questions, and YOC. So if we're assessing a knowledge part, a basic part of the competencies, then we should adopt MCQs as well as short answers methods. And if it is at a practical sessions and we're asking for the demonstration, or we're intended to assess the demonstration or the procedure skills of the students, OSCEs are better adopted, as well as standardized patient and simulated environment with models. And at workplace-based assessment, clinics and history taking, communication skills, usually the mini CX or DOBS or 360-degree evaluation. For second phase students and third phase students, this is not that important 360-degree evaluation. But as the students progress to a higher level, like third phase or internship, okay, this 360-degree evaluation will be adopted. We can also use portfolios, which is again a part of logbook assessment that we will be learning in the subsequent sessions. And workplace-based assessment, the chart which I had shown in the previous slides, one of that can be adopted. So now I will discuss about in our forensic medicine, how we should choose the method of assessment for what the students are learning, or what are the objectives of the learning sessions. I have collected these table from the previous sessions, that teaching learning methodologies as well as deriving of the SLOs. This chart is important in aligning the competency as well as SLOs derived, and what method of learning, teaching learning method is adopted, and how it can be aligned with the assessment method. For example, with the competency forensic medicine 2.1, it is given: define, describe, and discuss death and its types, including somatic, clinical, cellular, molecular, and brain death, cortical and brainstem death. The SLOs derived were, at the end of the class, a student shall be able to define death. So what I have done is, okay, we will have to identify what level of domain the student have to acquire. For defining death, it is definitely knowledge domain, but level of learning is also a lower level in the pyramid. Just I will show that pyramid slide. Okay. Definitions and classifications will come at the know level. Knows how level and comprehensions of the knowledge. That is why once we say it is at the definition level, it is at the very base of the pyramid. Similarly, describe the types of death: somatic death, molecular death, as well as cortical death and brainstem death. It requires a little higher knowledge level, that is know-how level. Similarly, describe the procedure, it is at the know-how level. Okay. When we say describe the procedure, the student is, we're expecting the student to write it or tell it. Okay, so it is not the demonstration. That is why I have categorized it as a know level, knows how level for these competencies. Similarly, okay, define a manner of death is at the knowledge level, base of the knowledge level. Enumerate various manners of death is also at the knows level. If you look into whole of the competencies, it is at the knowledge level. So it can be taught in the theory, in the lecture halls. Everything is in the base level. So assessment methods adopted for this would be MCQs or short answers, true or false, and multiple extended or match the followings, as well as assessments can be, assignments can be given. And other, apart from this, small group discussions or seminars or writing the record books can also be given as a form of assessment. So while giving the MCQs, we might think how it can be formative exams. So usually at the end of the topics, some of the MCQs can be distributed or circulated to the students and they will respond to it. So after responding, we can give feedback. Feedback can be given in the individual level or at a small group levels. Usually we should avoid giving feedbacks in the large groups. So I will also explain how MCQs with individual feedbacks given utilizing the online platforms. With the second example, we have taken it as a skill level or the psychomotor level. In the psychomotor level, it is a procedure skill as well as one is the communication skills. The competency for the procedure skill here is describe and discuss examination of mutilated bodies or fragments, charred bones and the bundles of the bone. As well, in the competency of FM 14.9, the competency required here is demonstrate examination of and present an opinion after examination of skeletal remains in a simulated or supervised manner. Remember here, here it is in the simulated or supervised manner, and the student will have to demonstrate. Yes, sir. Again with the slide. Okay. For the competency of describe and discuss the bones as well as demonstrate the examination of skeletal remains. This is for the procedures competency, psychomotor competency. At the end of every SLOs, we will have to just identify what level teaching is required for this or what level of acquisition a student has to be required. So by categorizing this, it is very easy to club all the knows and knows how level and identify the teaching learning method for that, as well will be aligned to the assessment. So there is no discrepancy between what a student has learned and what type of assessment we're looking into. Like for example, if a student knows how to examine, okay, and he just knows it and has learnt in the lecture class, and if I'm taking to demonstrate and I'm asking him to hold the bone in proper position or show where it is present, and or even if I ask them to identify the sex features, all these things, it is actually a discrepancy between what student has learnt and what we're trying to assess. That is why categorizing them into levels is very important at the SLO level itself for the better alignment. So here in the first competency 2.16, describe the procedure as well as describe the procedure of examination of mutilated bodies as well as skeletal remains is at the knows how level. The teaching learning.
Your voice is again disturbing, sir.
Yes, sir. So once we have identified knows and knows how level, small group discussions and practical demonstrations are taken, and for this, okay, MCQs and short answers and multiple choice can be adopted. Okay, any of these can be adopted as assessment methods only to assess the knowledge level. But if we want to assess how best they can demonstrate or how best they can conduct the examinations, then we'll have to go for some other methods of assessment. First, we'll see to which domain they belong. In case of skills, enumerate the objectives of skeletal remains belongs to nose level. Demonstrate the procedure of examination of skeletal remains in a simulated or supervised environment. So does it belong to knowledge level or shows how level or performance level? As I told in the previous slides, if it is a simulated environment or supervised environment, it has to be shows how level. Independent performance are not assessed. So at this shows how level, we can adopt DOPS or directly observed procedure skill assessment methods, and it can be also recorded in the logbook. Okay. And in case of DOPS, corrective feedbacks or constructive feedbacks are given at the end of the session itself. But when the student was learning in the teaching learning methodologies, like in case of DOPS method, we call there are many kinds of DOPS method, DOAP, it is called as DOAP, demonstration, observation, assistance, and performance. A feedback can be given concurrently while performing. We need not have to wait till the end of the sessions. But for end of the assessment, okay, in the DOPS method, feedback is given immediately after the session. And if it is not, a student's performance is not this one, as per the expectations, the students can be asked to repeat the test or repeat the assessment. Okay. And as well for the competency, draft a medico-legal report and opinion after the examination of the skeletal remains. Try to differentiate between these two skills. Here it is demonstrate, here the person is drafting, okay, or the student is drafting. Demonstration, the student is physically doing it, and in case of drafting, he is bringing out his higher knowledge in the form of synthesis or analysis, and he's bringing out the solution or the management level. So the second one is intellectual skill, and the first one is procedure skill or technical skill. So we can't adopt a DOPS, directly observed procedure skills for this method of assessment. Here 1 minute preceptor or SNAPS is aptly adopted. Like you're just going to probe the student, inquire more, bring out more information from the students, and help him to narrow down the diagnosis. Okay. Similarly, if a student has given an opinion on the skeletal remains, like if he has suggested or said it is a male skull, belongs to male gender, then we will have to probe him by asking multiple questions. Sorry. One more competency of in the domain of attitude and communications. Administers informed consent and appropriately address patient queries to a patient undergoing a surgical procedure in a simulated environment. Again, it is under simulated environment. Okay. And here it is not a procedure skill. Many will get confused with saying it is a procedure skill, but it is again an intellectual skill. More than that, it is a demonstration of communicating ability as well as empathetic. So if they are broken into SLOs, it can be said as defined informed consent correctly, which is at the knowledge level. Describe the components and rules of informed consent with 90% accuracy. This will be at the knows how level. And these two objectives can be tested with MCQs or short answers. But demonstrate the ability to appropriately address the patient queries in simulated environment can be from the Kalamazoo rating scale, observations, direct observations is required, and it can be done with a checklist here. And here, it can be done by the standardized patient or even the peer or the friend of a student or an instructor or a facilitator. It need not always be a teacher there, or a tutor who is trained to take up all this assessment can be utilized. And one more emphasis, what we can bring it out here, let's not decide who will take the exam, right? Who will be assessing the student here, taking into consideration of staff or teacher-student ratio in forensic medicine. We'll only try to align them to the SLOs as well as the teaching learning methodologies, because formative assessment needs very huge infrastructure in case of resource persons. Few of the online platforms which can be utilized for teaching, learning, as well as assessments are Zoom, Hangout, or this one. There is something called as Big Blue Dot, even WebEx, and there are many. And G Suite is user friendly, and many of are using it, and it has a Google Forms within that, or Google Slides, and as well as Google Meet can be taken into this one G Suite. And very importantly, the Google Classroom, which has all the platforms within a single case. So suggested platform for online formative assessments are oskihome.com. It comes with version as well as paid versions. You can go through this, and it is very easy to understand from these websites. As well as there is something called as ihuman.com. This was adopted for study of dissection methods, osteology, as well as some embryological models. For forensic medicine, we can use it for studying anthropometry as well as skeletal remains. Something regarding Kahoot. Kahoot is a very apt tool for classroom formative assessment, where we can give, and this is usually adopted for at the level of nose and nose hole level. Usually online methods are not better suited for procedure skills or intellectual skills. Whatever we are discussing on the online methods should be adopted for nose hole level or at the cognitive level. This everyone can download in the mobiles. This is a screen how it is visible in the mobile. The app is very friendly to use. I had downloaded it 3 days back and put these questions. I had put the 10 questions, and students can learn these 10 questions in many different playful manners. Like they can use the flashcards. On clicking this flashcards, the questions will appear, and if they do not know the answer for that, they can click on the card itself. It will turn back, and the answer is written over this one. I'll try to demonstrate if it is available on the net at the end of this session, or I'll try to share it now only. Yes. Yes, this is how it appears on desktop and laptop, but it has a very different format in mobiles. Okay, here I have given the name for this formative assessment as medicine and toxicology. The students can go for a play option. As an editor or a host, I have both options of edit and play, and these are the 10 questions. I have framed it as a quiz 1 to 10 questions here. Okay, so each question has a 20 seconds to answer. Students take up this as assessment. It will be recorded and rated, but for study purpose, it will give multiple options of studying level. Okay, for example, okay, if I click over this, the right answer is already present over here. Okay. As per MTP Act, one doctor's opinion is sufficient in termination of pregnancy of 12 weeks. Or similarly, optic atrophy can be caused by which poisoning? That is, correct answer could be methyl alcohol. So by doing this, students learns what is the correct answer, and later on he can take up the test, or it can be like a pre-test and post-test methods are available. Similarly, this is play mode. Sorry, there was a problem with loading it. Okay, just you can go through, download in your mobile, and I will share the link here. Whatever I have prepared questions or quizzes, everyone can go through this and you will understand it better, like how students can be given option to learn and even they give the exams. This can be a form of source of resource material as well as examination pattern. But even Google Forms, apart from this Kahoot, Google Forms are much easier to implement or much easier to give, and it will give us again the all the analysis pattern and individual feedbacks can be given very clearly in case of Google Forms. We had adopted this Google Form for the multiple exams, even in case of internal exams as well as end of the topic exams, maybe around 10 to 12 exams we have already given, assessments were given to the students. We have taken up some practical exams on the Google Forms also. I'll just share these responses, how they had come. In the Google form, email address is mandatory, it is given. If there is asterisk with a red dot, it is mandatory. Name of the student is mandatory. Roll number is mandatory. And there are about 10 questions given, which are mandatory for all the students. And the responses what we got can be summarized in this manner. Okay, the Google form itself summarizes everything. It shows that graphical representations is given. So this is average score of the students. Like out of total participants were 229 participants or responses. Among them, nearly 150 students have scored 10 out of 10. And around 29 have scored 9 marks. And similarly, the graphical representation. The scores will be generated immediately after the submission. So who has scored how much, and we can click over this and give the positive immediate individual feedbacks. But how it can be utilized for formative assessment is that how many questions are not attempted by the students, or how many questions are difficult for the students have to be identified by the teacher, and those should be discussed in the larger classrooms. Okay. And if it is a practical session, individual feedbacks can be given. And one more thing with the Google Forms is this can be given out in the Excel spreadsheets, and you can document it for the further progressions or add it to the internal assessment formats. This is how we get in the Excel sheets. It is when the student has taken up the exam, when responded, and email address and score and individual marks or individual answers for the questions asked. So this is a brief about online assessment formats. I will go back to the presentation. Yes, this is how Kahoot, and in the Google form, we had given a dental examination to the students who had shared the photographs, and there were color photographs, even one anthropometric as well as dental charting, and one case scenario was given. And students had responded with the reasoning, and also we can ask the students to write the complete format in a white sheet, click it and send it in the PDF format, so that even their writing skill as well as the reasoning can be assessed there, and individual feedbacks were given after the end of the practical sessions. Okay, so this is very easy to go through Google Forms for even the classroom formative assessment in the form of MCQs, or else in case of true or false, as well as some of the practical sessions can be adopted with the Google Forms. So coming to the last objective of the session, summative assessment in case of forensic medicine. As we all know, it is in the summative examinations will be there in the third part of the MBBS course. But summative examination doesn't mean it is only the end exam. So internal exams have to be conducted. Internal exams are also part of summative examinations. So in a year, phase 2, at least 2 internal assessments have to be conducted. This is minimum. We can conduct even more internal assessments. as well as in case of third phase, 2 internal assessments have to be conducted in the forensic medicine subject. Altogether, we will have to take average of all the internal assessments for the addition to the university exams. So here, internal assessment is not added to the marks obtained in the university exams. Internal assessment is just a eligibility criteria to appear for the university exams. Here, internal assessment, 50% of combined theory and practical exams have the student will have to at least secure 50% of the combined marks and not less than 40% in each subject or each part. That is, if a student scores 40% of the internal marks, 60% will have to be scored from the practical area. Together, it will make a 50%. This is only for eligibility. This is not going to add to the aggregate of the university exams. No doubt, this will appear as a different head in the mark sheet, but no internal assessment is going to be added to the theory or practicals. So in university exams, mandatorily it is 50% marks in theory as well as practicals. And a change which has occurred in the practical exams is the viva is added to practical head, okay, not to the theory. Previously in the, all these years it was added to theory. Right now it is practical plus viva will be total or gross practical marks. The theory paper has 100 marks as well as practicals carries 100 marks in forensic medicine. For internal assessments, logbooks are very important now. It carries a 20% weightage for theory as well as practical exams. Okay, so in case of theory exams, we can take into considerations of assignments or record writing or even seminar presentations or punctuality and logbooks. Okay. And e-portfolios are annexed to the logbooks. These are some of the proofs or evidences for the activities done, especially like some visits to external field visits or some of the laboratories, like if they are visiting the forensic science laboratories or they are visiting the courts or if they are visiting juvenile rehabilitation centers, all these will be recorded as a portfolio as well as logbooks. And there has to be some marks given to, or sorry, grading has to be given to the e-portfolio and logs and added to either practical or theory aspects. And the regular completion of the assignments have to be taken into consideration for theory assessment. So with this, I will conclude my sessions, and I thank organizers for having given me this opportunity, and also thank the participants for patient hearing. And my acknowledgement to the Kamals as well as Enopoya Deemed University and Department of Forensic Medicine, co-speakers for helping me out to focus and bring out the content areas, and Dome JNMC and JNMC College. Thank you. I will take up the questions if there are any questions.
Thank you, Sir. It was in a very crisp manner where you discussed about the relation between competency, SLO, and assessment, and gave details about formative, summative, and then also went on to the subject.